The metallic click of the garage door lock echoed through the quiet suburban street like a gunshot. Mike Thompson froze, his hand suspended mid-reach towards a stack of carefully labeled evidence boxes. The last thing he expected was an interruption, especially not from Karen Miller, the neighborhood's self-appointed vigilant of noise complaints and unwritten homeowner association rules. For the past 6 months, Mike had been working a delicate undercover operation that made his previous FBI assignments look like child's play. The garage had become his secret command center, a place where meticulously collected intelligence could change the course of a major investigation targeting a sophisticated international cybercrime ring. Each box represented months of painstaking work, digital forensics, and high-stakes surveillance that could potentially take down a network responsible for millions in stolen financial data. The sound of keys jingling outside made his heart race. Mike knew Karen. Everyone on Maple Grove knew Karen. She was the type of neighbor who measured grass height with a ruler and kept a decibel meter in her kitchen drawer. Her crusade against what she called neighborhood noise pollution was legendary. Complaints about everything from late-night lawn mowing to children's birthday party music had become her trademark. As the garage door began to open, Mike's training kicked in. Years of FBI fieldwork had prepared him for unexpected scenarios, but this was different. This was his personal space, a carefully constructed sanctuary of investigation that now faced potential compromise by the most unlikely of intruders. The door creaked open, revealing Karen's silhouette, 5'2" of pure, unfiltered suburban determination. Her floral house dress and sensible shoes were at complete odds with the high-tension moment unfolding. Mike could see the familiar clipboard in her hand, no doubt ready to document some perceived acoustic transgression. "Michael Thompson," she called out, her voice sharp and accusatory. "I've been tracking noise levels from your property for weeks, and today is the final straw." Mike remained perfectly still. The boxes behind him contained evidence that could potentially dismantle a cybercrime network affecting financial institutions across 3 continents. One wrong move, one moment of panic could jeopardize everything. What Karen didn't know, what she couldn't possibly understand, was that the seemingly mundane sounds she had been monitoring were actually carefully orchestrated communication signals. The noise she found so offensive was a complex system of encrypted transmissions designed to look like ordinary household sounds to anyone not looking closely. Her footsteps approached, each step bringing with it the potential for complete disaster. Mike's mind raced through potential scenarios. How could he protect the investigation? How could he prevent Karen from seeing something she absolutely should not see? The fluorescent garage light flickered, casting long shadows across the meticulously organized space. Mike knew that in the next few seconds, everything could change. One unexpected encounter could unravel months of covert work, putting not just his career but potentially multiple lives at risk. The moment stretched like an elastic band about to snap. Karen's eyes, magnified by thick-rimmed glasses, darted around the garage, her clipboard clutched tightly against her chest. Mike remained absolutely still, his years of tactical training allowing him to control even his breathing. "What is all this?" Karen demanded, taking a step closer to the carefully arranged evidence boxes. Mike knew he had milliseconds to act. One wrong word, one sudden movement could compromise everything. The cybercrime investigation he'd been building for months, an operation targeting an international network that had already infiltrated multiple government and financial systems, hung in the balance. "Ms. Miller," he began carefully, his voice calm and measured, "this isn't what you think." But Karen was already moving, her curiosity overriding her initial noise complaint. She leaned forward, squinting at the meticulously labeled boxes. Mike noticed her gaze fixating on a series of hard drives and encrypted communication logs that looked anything but ordinary. Suddenly, a soft buzz broke the tension. Mike's secure satellite phone, a direct line to his FBI handler, began to vibrate. The timing couldn't have been worse. Karen's hand shot out, her fingers nearly grazing one of the evidence boxes. "Are these some kind of sound recording devices? Is this about the noise complaints?" In that instant, Mike made a split-second decision. He stepped forward, positioning himself between Karen and the sensitive evidence. His movement was calculated, protective, but not threatening. Years of negotiation training kicked in, but this was unlike any scenario he'd been trained for. "Ms. Miller," Mike said slowly, "I'm going to need you to step back." But Karen Miller was not a woman easily deterred. Her reputation in the neighborhood was legendary. A retired school librarian who had transformed her retirement into a full-time mission of maintaining what she considered neighborhood standards. The satellite phone continued to buzz, its vibration a constant reminder of the high-stakes operation, now potentially compromised by this most unexpected intrusion. Little did Mike know that this moment, this bizarre collision between a meticulous FBI investigation and a neighborhood noise complaint, was about to take a turn that neither he nor Karen could possibly have anticipated. The carefully constructed walls between his covert world and suburban normalcy were about to come crashing down. Outside the garage, the quiet suburban street continued its mundane existence, completely unaware of the powder keg of tension building within these four walls. A dog barked in the distance, a sprinkler system clicked on, and Karen Miller stood face to face with an FBI agent who was desperately trying to prevent a potentially catastrophic breach of national security. The standoff continued, with Mike's mind racing through a dozen potential scenarios. He faced down international criminals and navigated complex undercover operations, but nothing had prepared him for Karen Miller. His satellite phone stopped buzzing, then immediately began again. This time, Karen noticed the unusual ringtone, a series of seemingly random electronic chirps that Mike knew were anything but random. "Is that some kind of special phone?" she asked, her librarian's instinct for detail kicking into overdrive. Before Mike could respond, the phone's screen illuminated, casting a blue-white glow across the garage. A coded message scrolled briefly, visible just long enough for Karen to catch a glimpse of strings of numbers and cryptic text. Something changed in Karen's demeanor. The clipboard-wielding neighborhood watchdog suddenly seemed different. Her posture shifted, a hint of something more calculating replacing her previous righteous indignation. "Interesting encryption," she said quietly, pushing her glasses up her nose. Mike froze. Those were not the words of a typical noise complaint enthusiast. His hand instinctively moved closer to his concealed service weapon, a movement Karen didn't miss. "I wouldn't do that if I were you, Agent Thompson," she said, her voice now crisp and professional. "You might compromise more than just this investigation." The transformation was shocking. Gone was the overzealous neighbor. In her place stood someone who clearly knew far more than she should. Mike's training kicked in: assess, evaluate, respond. "Who are you?" he asked, each word measured and controlled. Karen. If that was even her real name, smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the kind of smile that suggested multiple layers of secrets and potential danger. "Let's just say I've been watching this operation longer than you might think," she replied. Those noise complaints, they were never about noise. The implications crashed over Mike like a cold wave. His meticulously planned investigation, the months of careful preparation, the complex network of digital breadcrumbs he'd been following. Somehow, Karen was connected to it all. Outside, the suburban street remained unchanged. Perfectly manicured lawns, pristine driveways, absolutely no indication of the high-stakes confrontation unfolding in Mike's garage. His mind raced. Was Karen part of the cybercrime network? A competing agency? Something else entirely? The stack of evidence boxes behind him suddenly felt both like a lifeline and a potential liability. The satellite phone chirped again, another coded message. Karen's eyes flicked to the screen, a momentary recognition passing across her face. "We don't have much time," she said abruptly, "and neither do the people you're investigating." Mike realized, with a mixture of professional instinct and personal shock, that everything he thought he knew about this case and about Karen Miller was about to change dramatically. The next 60 seconds would change everything Mike Thompson thought he knew about his investigation and about Karen Miller. She moved with surprising agility, pulling a slim encrypted device from a pocket hidden within her floral house dress. The device looked like nothing Mike had ever seen in standard government-issue equipment. Its surface shimmered with a holographic interface that seemed to pulse with its own internal logic. "The network you've been tracking," Karen said, her voice now devoid of any suburban pleasantry, "goes deeper than your FBI files could ever reveal. Those cybercrime connections, they're just the surface." Mike's professional instinct warred with his growing confusion. Everything about this moment defied standard protocol. The woman who moments ago had been complaining about neighborhood noise was now revealing information that could potentially rewrite the entire scope of his investigation. A series of encrypted images began to flash across her device: financial records, encrypted communications, satellite imagery. Mike recognized fragments, offshore accounts, coded communication patterns, snippets of data that his team had spent months trying to piece together. "Who do you work for?" Mike demanded, his hand still hovering near his concealed weapon. Karen, or whoever she really was, laughed. It was a sharp, controlled sound that held zero humor. "Let's just say I'm not your typical neighborhood watch." The satellite phone chirped again. This time, the message was different. A countdown. 30 minutes. Mike knew exactly what that meant. Something was about to happen that would fundamentally alter the landscape of the investigation. "They know we're close," Karen said, her eyes scanning the garage's carefully organized evidence. "And they're going to make a move to shut everything down." Mike's mind raced. The cybercrime network he'd been tracking had connections in multiple government agencies, financial institutions, and tech companies. But this was something else entirely. The level of information Karen was revealing suggested a conspiracy far more complex than anything his original investigation had uncovered. A distant sound caught his attention, a vehicle approaching, not just any vehicle. The specific engine rhythm suggested a high-end SUV with modified suspension. Tactical. Prepared. "They're coming," Karen said matter-of-factly. "And they're not here to negotiate." The garage suddenly felt smaller. The carefully collected evidence boxes now seemed both a weapon and a liability. Mike realized they had mere minutes to make a decision that could alter the entire investigation and potentially their lives. Karen's device continued to pulse with information. Fragments of a much larger puzzle were beginning to take shape. The line between ally and threat had never been more blurred. "We have two choices," she said, her voice cutting through the rising tension. "We can stay and fight, or we can disappear." Mike Thompson looked at the woman who had entered his garage as a noise complaint vigilant and was now presenting him with a choice that could unravel a conspiracy decades in the making. The suburban street outside remained peaceful, completely unaware of the storm brewing within these four walls. The approaching vehicle's engine cut through the suburban silence like a knife. Mike made his decision in a split second. "We move," he said, grabbing two specific evidence boxes and shoving them into a nondescript tactical bag. Karen was already one step ahead. She pulled a panel from the garage wall, revealing a hidden exit Mike hadn't even known existed in his own garage. The precision of her movement spoke volumes about her true capabilities. "You're not just some random operative," Mike muttered, following her through the concealed passage. "Retirement is complicated," Karen replied dryly, "especially for people like us." The passage led to an underground tunnel system that ran beneath the seemingly innocent suburban neighborhood. Mike realized now why Karen's noise complaints had been so meticulously documented. They were never about noise. They were a cover, a method of monitoring the neighborhood's subtle movements and communications. Outside, they could hear vehicle doors opening. Professional. Tactical. The kind of approach used by people who intended to leave no witnesses. "The network you've been investigating," Karen explained as they moved quickly through the tunnel, "is more than just a cybercrime operation. It's a shadow infrastructure that's been manipulating global financial systems for decades." Mike's mind reeled. The evidence boxes he'd grabbed contained only a fraction of what they'd need to expose the full extent of the conspiracy. But it would be enough to start unraveling the thread. A series of encrypted messages began streaming through Karen's device. Coded communications that revealed the depth of the network's infiltration, government agencies, tech companies, financial institutions. Everything was connected. "Who are you really?" Mike asked again, this time with genuine curiosity. Karen's lips curved into a slight smile. "Let's just say I've been cleaning up loose ends longer than you've been an agent." The neighborhood watch was the perfect cover. They emerged from the tunnel into a nondescript parking garage miles from Mike's suburban home. A sleek, unmarked vehicle waited, its engine already running. "We have 72 hours, Karen said, sliding into the driver's seat. 72 hours to expose a network that's been operating in the shadows for decades. Mike realized his entire understanding of his investigation had been turned upside down. The noise complaints, the garage invasion, the hidden tunnel, it was all part of a much larger plan. As they drove away, leaving behind the peaceful suburban street that had been ground zero for this unexpected encounter, Mike Thompson understood one thing clearly. Sometimes the most dangerous operatives look absolutely ordinary. The investigation was just beginning, and Karen Miller was not your typical neighbor.